powerful point. Such a powerful point. I didn't want to let it go. It was
No,
a
no,
huge, just wrapping it all together. And it was pertinent to you too. So.
Yeah, it was a neat anomaly, actually, I think. So, okay, you have a wonderful day.
Yes, yes.
I've got to go tend to Mr. CJ. So,
yes. All right. Very good. Very good.
all
Very
right,
good.
take
Very
care,
good.
guys.
Very good.
Bye.
All right. Brilliant. Brilliant. Bye-bye, sir. Bye-bye, sir. Such magical stuff. Such magical stuff. How are you, Kay? How are you? How are you? How are you?
Yeah, I'm fine, except I went to the, I didn't know if you got my
Yes,
message.
I did. I replied to the email, but you may have already been at the doctor on the way.
I didn't see it.
Yeah, I was having a bit of fun. Did they make you wait?
Not too bad. Not too bad.
All right. Do you charge them for the time that they make you wait?
I should.
I mean, it's just, if you
know.
miss your appointment, they charge you, right? But they're quite happy to make you wait 2 or 3 hours sometimes. It's like, come on,
No, this group, they are not bad. But
Oh,
this
okay, good.
is it's a cardiologist.
Oh.
And
So your card's okay?
my cards are okay. A couple of years ago, it was a long story and I won't go into all that, but eventually the end point was that they found out that I have like a little curve in my carotid artery.
Oh.
And it's just a thing that, I mean, I've had it my whole life. But so there's nothing wrong, it's not like a big horrible thing, but they keep an eye on it and make sure that everything's
because it is potentially something that could inhibit blood flow.
Right.
Yeah. And it could starve the brain.
That would be a stroke, or something.
Yeah. Okay.
And so, and actually when we first discovered it, they thought there was blockage there, like people get, have high cholesterol. I didn't have high cholesterol. They couldn't figure out, how could I get this up here? And usually if it's up here, it's already in your heart. And there wasn't anything in my heart. And they're like, what's happening? So I had to do that test where they stick a thing through your leg and fish.
Yeah. Wow.
And so they were happy that they found out that it was just this little curve. And so I said to the doctor, well, is it something that, you can fix or whatever? And he said, well, you'll need to take that up with your maker.
Interesting. Now, who is the maker of Kay that does have influence on her?
Well, Kay does. But
exactly. So the first thing that came to mind for me, and this is a project I've worked on all my life, I do it every single day, it is to repurpose tension. Right.
Okay.
Brilliant. Talking about repurposing tension. Hello, Beena. Beena.
Hi, Beena.
So yeah.
Hello.
So it started. Let me say, Beena, say again what you said. Sorry.
Oh, I was just saying that. How are you, Kay?
I'm doing well. I did have to get. You can see this thing. I have to wear this heart monitor for a week because everything was great except I have my pulse or whatever, my heart rate was really, really low. And they said, why is your heart rate only 46 beats per minute? And I said,
you're very chill and you're relaxed.
Yeah, that's what I said. Hey, I'm fine. And they said, well, if you were like, if you were a triathlete, super fit, that, you might. Yeah. And I'm like, well, what makes you think I'm not?
Yeah, exactly. And what did they say to that?
They said, well,
I mean, you go walking every day. You fit.
Yeah. Well, I did tell them that. I did.
Yeah.
Tell them. But and they were impressed. 5 miles a day, whatever. But anyway, they said, well, we just think it would be good to just check it out, whatever. So I have to wear this thing. And then there's somebody that's going to come to my house and I have to wear a thing on my finger at night that measures my oxygen level.
Wow.
To make sure, because I did a long time ago, I had sleep apnea. And they said that could be a cause. and I had my tonsils removed.
Late in life?
Yes, very late. I
How,
mean,
how old were you, by the way?
oh, I don't even know, 50, or something.
Oh, wow, wow, wow.
And they said, the doctor said I had the tonsils of Shaquille O'Neal.
Wow, I have that too. I still have it. I have my tonsils and they're permanently swollen.
Well, it was life changing to have this surgery. I couldn't believe
Oh,
it was. My whole life I felt like I was choking,
oh,
and I
oh,
couldn't. I didn't breathe very. I
yeah.
just wasn't getting the oxygen. So it was amazing. I was like, wow, this is what it's like for everybody.
Oh, that actually shifts my perception on having them removed. When I was a kid, I nearly died from tonsillitis a couple of times, and my father was a doctor. Okay, he left town when I was 12, but anyway, so he didn't want to put me on antibiotics. He was even then very cautious about the superbug of antibiotics, and he used them exceptionally sparingly. So
Right,
he knew I would need a lot of it. He just figured that I would grow out of it, that would naturally go down. No, I never did. So
yeah,
I never had them removed because he didn't want to put me on the antibiotics. And then by the time, he moved away and it just sort of fell apart. So
yeah.
and I've
Well,
had it all my life. So,
I had tonsillitis often as a kid,
yeah.
and I'm not sure. Every time they would talk about taking them out, I would get tonsillitis, and they'd have to, postpone.
Postpone it, right. Or put you on the antibiotics to bring it down. And since I just kind of have, if you look down my throat now, it looks like I have tonsillitis. I don't feel it, but it looks like
Right.
it. Yeah.
Well, it was
Interesting.
so interesting, and they did say, that having them removed when you're an adult is, supposedly a lot harder and blah blah.
It's riskier, right? I
But
believe, right? Did they say riskier or just harder?
no, they said just like, really uncomfortable and,
Painful.
but and I mean it wasn't fun. I'm not going to say it was fun,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
um, it's so funny, if they give me directions on, do this, I do it. I mean,
Yeah,
I'm like,
yeah,
I
yeah,
absolutely follow
yeah,
directions. They kept saying, you've got to drink all this water. And it felt like knives, for a couple days when I would
yeah,
drink water.
yeah,
But I mean, I just drank water. They
yeah,
said,
yeah,
put a um, vaporizer, in your
yeah,
room,
yeah,
whatever.
yeah,
And
yeah.
so I
I,
did.
I get that at night when I wake up, my
So
throat is dry and like,
yeah. So I went back after the surgery. I went back in, you have to have a checkup after,
yeah.
whatever, a week or something. And I came in and I was like, oh, hi, how are you? And the nurses were all like, didn't you just have that surgery? And I'm like, yeah. And they said, well,
Wow.
there's a man in the other room that had the exact same thing as you. He just got back from Iraq. He's like a, military guy, and he's in there crying.
Wow.
You're
Wow.
fine.
See, Princess Katie Bird has magical powers.
That's right. That's right. So,
Yeah, that's
yeah, so
fantastic. That's magical. But
it
what
was,
I'm excited about, I mean, been holding this all the time, waiting, say, look at this from an abstract anomaly, just a, abstract point of view.
right.
What is the heart thing saying?
What is what saying?
What is the thing on your chest saying? Your heart? What is it saying in an abstract saying? Listen to
Uh,
your heart.
oh, listen to your heart.
You're like the.
Yeah.
So Princess Katie Bird, she goes and sees the wizard for whatever reason,
Right.
right?
Right.
And the wizard says to her, you're going to listen to your heart. And also the thing on the finger, I don't know. Oxygen is what? What does oxygen represent symbolically?
Inspiration.
There you go. Exactly.
Okay.
Now,
Okay.
I have a little story about oxygen psychology, by the way.
Really?
Mm,
I never
because
heard.
oxygen it's a very volatile molecule. It combines with everything, and I've got a whole list of it. When it
Okay.
combines with carbon, you get carbon dioxide, and it's a very transformative. So the oxygen psychology is a psychology that readily lends itself to blending and adapting with its environment, and it can be different depending on the environment that it connects to. So it can be one day it can be carbon dioxide, and I forget all the things that you combine. I went and researched it, but I don't know. One is an acid, and then you got this and that. I mean, it's a whole range of things that that oxygen can become. It's incredible. Incredible.
That is interesting.
Yeah. It combines with pretty much anything. It's a very adaptive molecule. Yeah, very powerful. So if you look at oxygen in that sense as not just inspiration, which inspiration is very adaptive, right? It takes from anything, but so you're paying attention to inspiration, to adaptability, because oxygen is this it's incredibly adaptive. It just yeah. You can probably Google it. Beena, maybe while we chat, maybe if you wouldn't mind, could you Google elements or molecules that oxygen combines with? And there'll probably be a list of them to say, like carbon dioxide, anything that's, monoxide, monoxide, carbon monoxide, that's when it just goes one. Dioxide is two, so you got trioxide, it's all, it's a whole bunch of them that it does. Yeah, it's very fascinating. It's very fascinating. I said I have this it's a book that I was going to write, actually, start of a book. So yeah. I mean, it's written, it just has to be finished, but yeah, it's very exciting. Very exciting. Oxygen personality or oxygen psychology. Yeah. Because oxygen psychology is okay. Look, when it comes into contact with fire, what happens to oxygen?
When it comes in contact with fire.
Yeah, it's
right.
It makes the whole thing go more. It exacerbates fire. So oxygen has to stay away from fire. It just makes it worse. You see. So if you're an oxygen personality, know this, and that's what happens with some people that have this. They combine, and then they just aggravate, they accentuate, or they lock things in, they entrench. So yeah, oxygen personalities all over the show, kind of. So we have to be careful of it if that's something that's part of your nature. So yeah, it's very fascinating. But I just thought from the story that there's an listening to your heart. I don't know. This is something, and the fact that Katie Bird has this very gentle heart. Okay. If you take a slow pulse and you abstract it, right? You metaphoricize it, you figure it, that would be a gentle heart, no? Yeah, it's not all wild and it's strumming away inside your chest there, looking to leap out. It's very chill and very content. It's a gentle heart, no? Okay. Very simple. Magical stuff. But listening to your heart. This is. I mean, the universe is telling you, hey, listen to your heart. Like really, really listen to your heart. So, both literally and figuratively. So anything that happens, you're just taking it all. Everything now is figurative as well, right?
I like it.
It's fantastic. It's magical. It's magical. So yeah, the magical visit to the wizard. Yeah. Yeah. It's very cool. Very cool. Very cool. Beena, did you find anything? Or not yet?
Yeah, it's a whole lot of things.
Can you screen share real quick to show us?
Oh, I was just going on, and because it's a new concept for me. I was thinking about oxidization, and and it was on. This is compounds of oxygen. I searched on Wikipedia. Okay, what is compound of oxygen? Because it's a whole lot of names.
So what do you get when you do oxygen compounds of oxygen or oxygen compounds? Let's see. That's fine. We can see. Too much. A little smaller. A little less. There we go. That's fine. Okay. So. Oh, the TV's loud. So.
Oh, sorry. Let me do that.
Yeah, you see there's a whole bunch of them will form oxides with all other elements except the noble gases, helium, neon, argon, and krypton. Wow, I didn't see this at the time I did my oxidation. So oxygen is reactive and will form oxides with all other elements except the noble gases, helium, neon, argon, and krypton. Now, I don't think those are all of the noble gases, just those four in particular. But hydrogen is a noble gas too, I believe, and so it can form that too. and you definitely get hydrogen dioxide or whatever. So that's interesting. Only 4 elements.
Wow.
Wow. Only 4 that it cannot combine with. That's fascinating. Helium, neon, argon, and krypton. Well, krypton is kind of right? So I don't know why helium, neon, and argon. There's a story in there somewhere, but that's fascinating. So, yeah, it just to give you that's all we needed to know, really, Beena. You know, I mean, it can tell you all the different ones and all of that, but it's magic, you know. So yeah,
Yeah.
all
Right.
right, very cool, very cool. Thank you, Beena. Thank you. Wow, wow, wow. That's fascinating. So I'll see if I can find that article, or at least the start of that book, and we'll get into that. It'll be fun. It'll be fun to see. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And not that I think that either of the two of you are oxygen personalities, but
Thank you.
yeah. No, but we can have some of that in us. You know, it's that, you know, some people call it being an empath. You know,
Right.
yeah, and you just take on whatever's around you. But so it just usually it's some people who lack some identity and are just looking to identify with everything, you know. So it doesn't mean that since you might start as an oxygen personality or psychology, doesn't mean you have to stay that way. You can choose to bind with anything and choose your state. See, you don't have to just be random and yeah, you can choose it. You can choose it. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, very exciting, very exciting. All right, what you got for us? What you got for us, Kay? What's been
Well,
happening? What's been happening?
you know, first of all, yesterday was just, I don't feel like I've gotten to do as much as I would like to have
Oh,
because yesterday there was a lot going on, and my car, when I was up in Tulsa with Erica and Joe, we had a hailstorm. I almost think that we were talking to you at the time.
we were at the time. Yeah, 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 yeah.
So,
And your carriage got damaged.
it did. So
Oh,
I
oh.
we fixed, and so yesterday it was done. So I went and got that, and had to do all that stuff.
Gotcha, gotcha. Was there any adventure involved in the carriage service?
um, well, not really. I mean, they're
Nothing
great.
anomalous, nothing unusual.
I don't think so.
Ah,
The thing that I particularly noticed, but
okay, okay, okay.
and then, but the other thing that happened was kind of interesting. It wasn't really anomalous, but I finally got all my information together and sat down and filed for early Social Security.
Oh, you haven't done that yet, ever?
No. And
Wow.
so, well, and I had to get all this information and, stuff, and I had to make all these phone calls and blah, all this stuff. So, but the thing that was interesting was how nervous it made me. It made me so nervous. And,
Wow. Why?
well, when we talked about hesitation and
Ah, ah, ah.
self-trust
Yeah.
and, all of that. And it really made me nervous. I was just afraid that I was going to make a mistake or that I was going to, I mean, I've gone around and around. Should I do this now because it's early, or, should I wait, or blah, 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 blah. And I was thinking about what we had talked about the last time. And you had said, and you made a really interesting observation about the pattern of the kitten and the little baby birds,
Hmm.
and how they, when I'm seeing these things happening,
Yeah.
that the commonality was that they were both babies, helpless babies, and we talked about kind of growing up, and
Yes.
and that this is, I just have thought so much about it. And that's why it was so interesting that you were talking with Cher about that,
Mm.
about being childlike versus child.
Yes.
I've just been thinking to myself, I value my childlikeness. I think that is a
Yes.
about myself.
Yes. And one of our objectives in this program is to blend our sophistication and our childlikeness.
Well, that's kind of where I've been, I've
Yeah,
really
yeah,
been thinking about
yeah,
that in the
yeah,
last couple of days,
yeah,
and how to see myself more in the adult realm,
yeah.
but
Yes.
not lose
Why?
that
Why?
child.
Why? Why? What is the magic of fairy tales? Why the princess character?
What do you mean?
What makes them appealing? To me, it is precisely because they are a blend of sophistication and the childlike.
Right? Okay, I can see that.
The princess, that's what they represent. Inevitably, they have some sensibility or some kind of magic or power or whatever. They're always more, but they also have this childlikeness to them, that purity, the innocence, the goodness. That is what makes them an attractive character.
Right.
That's the definition of a princess right there. I mean, if they weren't sophisticated, then they're the maid, or the peasant lady, or whatever, the woodcutter's daughter, or something. It's a different deal. But the moment they're the princess, you're adding that sophistication into
Mm-hmm.
it. Right.
Yeah. So
I
it's
mean, you can have a wicked princess too, but in general, the princesses are always nice. But I mean, you think of every Disney princess. Are they not childlike and sophisticated?
yes,
There
you're
you go.
right.
So.
So it was interesting, and when I was sitting there just feeling all kind of flustered over the Social Security thing, and I thought, okay, this is a great opportunity to practice, and I can be listening and perceiving things and still be getting down to business and just going forward, and I don't need to be hesitating. I can be waiting for the right time and all of that, uh, but when I am sure that something is right, I can go forward. And so I did press the button, and off we went. So that
Magic,
was,
magic, magic.
but I just kind of stood back and watched myself being really nervous about it, and I found it really interesting,
That is interesting. That is
especially
interesting.
after we've been talking about all these things. And
Yeah.
I love the fact that I can step back and
Yes.
look, see
Yes.
myself.
Yes.
And
Yes.
that's
Yes.
that's really helpful,
Oh,
to
it is a prime premium skill.
so
Premium skill.
so anyway, I didn't do a whole bunch more writing on my
So good. We were behind on your notes anyway. So
so
yeah.
um anyway, I did I'm really excited about writing, and I'm excited about the poetry and all of that. Um,
Yes.
and
Your life is full.
I'm excited to, keep going with that.
Yes. Yes.
Um,
Let me ask you real quickly in terms of the hesitancy. Is this a potentially a fear of commitment?
I think so. I think that's definitely, yeah.
Right. But again, it's based on your innate impeccability. You
Right,
are not willing to commit because you are not sure if the decision is going to be appropriate.
right, right, right.
You want to be sure. Here's the point though. At some point, can you be sure?
I'm not sure you can ever be totally,
Exactly.
so
Exactly.
it's just
Exactly.
you have to go, you have to move forward, go ahead, and then you can adjust from there. And that's
Oh, can you just repeat that, please?
even when you're not sure, you need to move forward, and then you can make adjustments as you go.
Oh, I'm waiting for the story that has this in.
Yeah, yeah, that's a good one. Okay, I got to write it down.
I mean, that's huge. It is such a simple point. But that's what I was saying to show. We have these inner aspects, and they're like a bunch of children, really. They
Yes.
are the unformed child psychologies that ran into dead ends that we abandoned, and then we developed a new one, right? There's many of them. Stubbornness, for instance. It worked as a child, or complaining. As babies, we get reinforced for complaining. But then
Yes.
you learn to abandon the complaining mindset because it doesn't work after a while. So we have all of these um, um, unfinished psychologies, and they are useful in their bubble contexts. right? But they're still in us. And so I is more than one. There's a whole bunch of them. This whole classroom full of these little kiddies inside of us. And they can have a real powerful influence and effect on us. So sometimes we have to just make the obvious to that particular one. That particular psychology that, got to indecision and it got into trouble, and it made poor decisions and got into trouble. Now it's afraid to say, hey, you know what, it's different now. Now we understand that, like what you just said there. You just have to make that point. Sometimes you just go and then you figure it out from there. Oh, the child didn't know that option. Oh, I mean, I've got an option to adapt. Oh, I never realized that. Oh, okay. And off they go. You know how kids are. Sometimes they're stuck, and then you point out something. And oh, okay. And then off they go. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. So know that we have these children inside us, and we have to deal with them and speak to them. And sometimes you basically gotta talk to them just like the children, and you gotta trick them sometimes too. And so like Sher was talking about fasting, just to have it one day on, one day off, to change your eating cycle. As a dietary change of routine. So I said, well, you know what? Make it into a spiritual thing. Oh, fasting is a spiritual thing, and you activate your kiddies there, or that side of it, and they're like, oh, okay, yeah, it's a spiritual thing. Oh, this is exciting. Okay, we're gonna do this because it's spiritual, and they get all motivated to do it. Otherwise, it's like, we don't care. So when you engage these inner aspects, our inner children, they are magic for motivating us. Even though you know consciously that you are leveraging your child inside, it doesn't matter. The end result of the motivation is very real. It's an incredible thing. So
Okay, I like that idea. I think
yeah. I mean, look how you're engaging your child side on your walks now.
exactly.
I mean, your walks are these magical spiritual adventures now.
Yeah,
It's a fantastic thing.
they are. It's really
Fantastic
awesome.
thing.
I love it. Totally look forward to it every day.
Yeah. I'm fascinated, Beena. I don't know if you were here. The doctor said that Kay has the heart rate of like a triathlete. It's like a super fit. People are doing these extensive things. Says, yeah, but I walk 5 miles a day. I said, well, yeah, we're talking about people who run 50 miles a day. Don't mind walking 5 miles. But she has a heart rate of 46.
Yeah, not all the time, but
Yeah,
when I was in there.
yeah. Well, it's a resting heart rate. Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
and as he was in and talking and we were doing stuff, we went back up to a normal rate, but
Yeah.
it was still kind of odd.
Yeah, interesting. At some point, I'll
Wow.
tell you when they took a blood pressure reading, and I had none.
None.
Yeah.
You
The
were
nurse was all freaked out. She called the head nurse. Said, come here. They did it again. Was none.
really?
Yeah.
Well, that's
Yeah.
bizarre.
Yeah.
Well, I had a great 122/70.
Interesting. I got to tell you the story real quick. I'm just going to give you the end of it. It's a very fun story going towards the whole build-up. But I took somebody to the hospital, one of our employees, when we were on the mountain ranch, and they'd been stabbed in the head, glass. They were fighting anyway. They're a rough crowd. So anyway, so it was a long drive to the hospital. I think it was almost like 3-hour drive. So anyway, she was bleeding all the time, and so we got her there just in time. And they had a tremendous trouble finding her vein, and they had to call the head nurse. They couldn't find the vein to give her blood. So I mean, at that point, she was pretty much dead, and had no blood pressure. And we were in the room with them, sitting right there. It's a kind of a country hospital, and so we're sitting right there. And I was so attuned to her. I was so immersed that oxygen, I had completely identified with her, and that's how come I had no blood pressure, because I was so connected to that woman. Yeah. So when the nurse came, she walks up to me, she says, "Oh, you look a bit pale." It makes me a bit emotional. Just thinking of it. She comes to me, says, "Oh, you look a bit pale. You okay?" Yeah, I'm fine. I'm okay. She says, "Oh, let me check your blood pressure." All right, whatever. Okay. Oh, she was so freaked. She said, but, how can this be? And she just couldn't understand. Said, did I do something wrong? She did it again. Same thing. She called the head nurse, and they did it, the sister, the matron, did it again. And then the matron said she'd seen it before. She said, over-identification with the patient.
Wow.
Yeah. Immersion. I have a tremendous immersion capacity. I guess so.
Wow.
Yeah. It was something else.
With fathers that I, have that with their like pregnant wives.
Yes,
The
yes.
fathers will get the
And they
symptoms.
lactate and everything. Yes, 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 yes.
I guess it happens. I guess it
Yeah,
happens.
yeah. I mean, the thing is, men have the capacity to breastfeed, and they can. They just have to kind of switch it off, but it's there. It's just latent.
Right.
It's fascinating. Yeah, yeah.
It is. It
So,
is.
yeah. On the way down, so we were on a mountain, on the Game Ranch mountain. It's a whole plateau mountain, the biggest kind of, it's a big area. It's a Game Ranch up there. Anyway, so it's a big, long drive on a dirt road, and all the way down this mountain, long, winding road, and there's a blood moon right in front of us,
Oh my
all the way
God.
down. It's truly a blood moon. I'd never seen it before. I'd never seen even a pinkish moon before. And I've seen them subsequently, but that was kind of orangish, and
Mm.
that was a blood moon. That was red like blood, and I'd never known it, even know there was such a word called blood moon. And we were just fascinated because you're seeing it so full screen right in front of you, all the way down that mountain, and we were just fascinated by this. So. We just thought it was fascinating because here's the three of us in the front of a little pickup truck, with the woman on the side, myself, Leva in the middle, and says, oh, she's grunting and groaning. Yeah, she's busy bleeding out. There's nothing we could do for because her head wounds, they bleed a lot. So I was just driving as fast as I could, So,
Oh my
middle of
God.
the night, 3 o'clock in the morning or whatever it was.
That's
So,
quite a story.
yeah.
That's quite a story.
Yeah. So anyway, it's fun little story, just a little side story there. But there's more to it that came before that. But anyway. I have
Wow.
too many long stories. You get me started, they get very long. So
Well, I understand.
yeah, exactly. You know how it goes. You know how it goes. You have magical adventures every day. Yeah,
That's right. That's
yeah,
right. Okay. Well, do you want to look at? I didn't do every slide on this.
yeah. No problem. No problem. Whenever you did, we do. It's all good. It's all good. It's all good.
Well, I started writing on the purpose of the session, and it just kind of kept
Mm.
going. So, um, and the title of this is "The Moment of Now: A List of What to Do to Shift Ourselves." And so,
Let me just interrupt real quick. Did we finish session 1? The takeaways? We did all of that. Yes.
well, I can go back and check
Yeah, yeah. Because you made a note at where you ended, right? Or at least you were going to.
about that, but I don't know. No, we did. We did.
Okay, good. Okay, good. Okay, okay, okay.
Okay.
Excellent.
Yeah,
Excellent.
we did.
Excellent.
Okay. So the next one. Okay. So it was for me. It was all about perspective shifting, and which just that in itself is so interesting. And once you start thinking about it, all of these things. Once you start thinking about
Yes.
them and you become aware,
Yes.
um,
Yes.
then you just see it everywhere, and
Yes.
you do
Yes.
it all the time,
Yes.
which
Yes.
is
Yes.
really
Yes. Opens up the door to magic land.
yeah, it's so interesting. The other day when we were talking about anticipation, and I started realizing that really, even I, who am not particularly great at anticipation, I do that all the time. I mean, think
We're
about
not. We're not.
I was not that good, but um, I was thinking about when you're driving, you do that all the time.
At least if you're a decent driver.
Well, yes, hopefully you do it all the time. If you're not,
Yes. 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 Yes.
um, so I just started watching myself to see,
Yeah.
when I was
Yeah.
and interesting because I feel like now I anticipate anticipating.
Yes.
You know,
Yes. Yes. Very exciting. Very exciting. Very exciting.
so I think perspective shifting is kind of the same thing.
Yes.
Once
Yes.
you become really aware,
Yes.
then
It,
it just happens all the time.
yeah. Yeah. I mean, Princess Ladybird, her magic wand is nicknamed PS.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. For perspective shifting, it's the same thing.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, it's a personal servant too.
Right.
you know, or it's a profound spirit, if you want to call it that.
Okay. I like
Yeah,
that.
yeah. I mean, it's a profound spirit that lives inside the wand,
Inside the one.
and that
Okay.
profound spirit is perspective shifting.
Yeah. Okay. Well, you know what? That's really good. I like it.
Yeah. Stuff connects, stuff connects. A real fun trick for anticipating while driving. Just pay attention to the upcoming traffic lights.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Look at them way before you get to them. See how far away you can see traffic lights and how you can drive in anticipation of them changing or not changing.
Right.
It changes your driving.
Yeah.
And if you're now looking to save fuel, it will certainly leverage your fuel consumption. Yeah.
The less stopping and
Yeah.
starting
Yeah.
better.
And also not driving up to the light and stopping, but slowing down so that you can kind of be moving still and cruising so that you don't have to accelerate, because it's acceleration that sucks your fuel the most. So then the more even you drive, the less fuel you use. So it's a way more fuel efficient way of driving.
The most efficient use of energy, which is of course impeccability.
Exactly. So it's an impeccable way of driving, precisely.
Impeccable thing.
Yes.
I like
Yes.
it.
I mean, driving unhurriedly, it's a big deal. It's in the perspective shifting for self-discovery workshop. The culmination of it is an example to apply it. You drive unhurriedly, and it's just one part of many things, but driving unhurriedly changes your entire perspective on driving. It's an incredible thing. Very simple. Yeah.
Um,
Fun
anyway,
stuff.
I've been really interested. And actually, Erica and I were talking. We had a 2-hour conversation last night talking about a bunch of different things, and that was one of them, just about options and being able to see, first of all, that there are other options. That is the first thing. The first thing you have to do is just even realize that there are other options, or there are other perspectives, and then switching and seeing it from a different perspective. You don't even know there's another perspective.
Yes. Oh, please write that down. That sounds like such a simple thing to say. But think of this in the context of Princess Katie Bird.
Right.
How massive a revelation is that? The moment Princess Katie Bird becomes aware of that, does that not change how you write the stories, including her ever after?
Yes.
No story after that can now not take this into account. Your
Mm-hmm.
entire downline has now been transformed through this one simple, tiny little thing. It seems so casual, but it's huge. Yeah?
Yes.
Wow. So what was that point again?
That you have to know that there are other perspectives before you can change your perspective.
Yes. Are there perspectives available to you that you are perhaps potentially and usually that you're unaware of and that you don't know yet are there?
Yes. Oh my gosh.
Yes. Now, isn't that an exciting thing?
It's a very exciting thing.
It's magical. Oh my goodness, it is magical. But we
It is.
forget that. We just assume all there is what we can perceive and what we know. What a horrible assumption.
Did I tell you the story? And this is not getting into my thing, but I can't remember if I told you this story about Phil. And I really learned. I mean, it was just like slap in the face from him, because he had an ability to see different options that I wasn't really always able to see. And he was telling about one time when he was young, he worked at a car dealer, and
Hmm?
surprisingly, he was a used car salesman. Anyway, he did sell cars, and so his family is from Michigan, and hunting is a really big thing. Deer hunting is a really big thing up in Michigan. And so it was a big family deal that opening day for the hunting season is a big deal up there. And so his whole family, they would go up to Michigan. Everybody would meet up there, and all the different relatives, and they would have this big thing, for opening day. And so he was working at this dealership, and he had put in for this vacation, like a year ahead. I mean, he knew he wanted to go to this thing. So he had given them all kinds of notice about it. And for some reason, something happened, and they told, everybody that you can't take vacation this week. We have something going on and nobody can be gone.
Oh, wow.
So of course he said, well, I'm going anyway. And so somebody that he worked with was like, oh my gosh, you can't do that. You can't. And he said, yeah, I can. I might need to get a new job when I come back, but I can. And just that story just was like, for me, I was like,
Yes, yes. Impossible options, which are actually possible.
so,
Yes,
that,
yes.
that was interesting. That was kind of my first introduction.
What a magical story.
It's a great story, and it just, whenever somebody says, you can't, I think, well, yeah, you
Yeah.
can.
Yes, 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 yes.
So
Wow,
anyway, that was just
wow,
interesting.
wow.
So
So that's interesting. I'm just thinking of used carriage salesman.
I know he really kind of fits the.
Yeah, yeah. But I mean, in the story, to write it in.
Oh, in the story, yeah.
It's a huge carriage salesman. I've never seen a fairy tale that had used carriages for sale.
But I like the
And
idea.
why not? And why not? It's fantastic, right? I mean, because this is a magical story.
It
What a
is.
fantastic story.
It's my story. I can write whatever
Of
I want.
course, of course. And hunting, I mean, come on, the whole village goes for a hunt. It's a big deal. It's like, I don't know, it was, and hunting season in magical time, in those fairy tale times was a big deal.
Oh, I
So,
would think so. I would think
yeah,
so.
that's fascinating. But that really is, people don't know that the choice to not choose is a choice.
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
And
So,
that, yes, there may be a consequence as a
yeah,
result of the choice,
yeah.
but that doesn't mean it's not a choice.
Exactly. And it doesn't mean that you're not willing to take the consequence. You may
Right.
not have liked the job anyway.
Right.
You say, okay, so I lose my job, so what? Big deal, let's get another one. I had an employee, Jody. This was Jody. Came in, there was like a little gap between the two counters, and the counters are just the right height, and he'd park himself between the two counters, put his hand on his chin like this, and there he would sit until a customer came in. Hours on end in that pose. It was just too amazing. Anyway, and he was always late every day.
Oh dear.
And so I would bring this up to him, and he actually, to his credit, he would always kind of run. It was quite let's just say, he was a healthy fellow. Corpulent, that was the word. Right, we were having fun with this yesterday. So anyway, so he would struggle to run up. And then I brought it up to him. I said, you come every day, and any other place they just fire you, you're not worried about it. He says, no. He was kind of honest about it. He said, look, I don't put myself out too much. If I get fired, I just go and find another job.
Wow.
Yeah. And he said, many jobs. It was his policy to go to a job and do as little as possible, and he would just do nothing until they fired him, and he'd find another job.
Wow. Well, that's
And so it works for me. He happened to, we had a sword and knife store, and he just loved swords and knives. He spent all his whole salary on it, because he lived at home. So he at least made a bit more effort in that job than he normally would. Said, other than that, nah, I've had plenty of jobs. They hire me, I don't do anything. They fire me, I go find another one.
wow.
Yeah, that's I mean. Beena, what do you think of that? It's just fascinating to me.
Yes, the world is full of strange people.
Yeah.
Okay, exciting also, really.
The
And
world,
okay,
yes, it's exciting. Yes, sorry, Karen, Beena, sorry, Karen.
no, it is not only exciting, but also it shows that if we are actually have clear idea in our mind, everything is possible. It's not easy
Exactly,
to have a
exactly.
repo of all these jobs
Yeah, yeah,
for very limited short time period and is still able to get it.
yeah, yeah,
Okay, new one. And
yeah.
he was so confident about that because he had clear
Oh,
intent and
yeah,
purpose and okay,
yeah.
yeah, I will find it.
And he
We
was at
struggle
peace.
too.
And he was at peace with himself. He was
Yeah,
completely and utterly at peace with himself. He had no qualms, no conscience about it. Okay, it doesn't work for my conscience, but I had to accept his peace of being. And again, you're talking about alternative options. There's an alternative option. To me, the takeaway from this is the world does not work the way we think it does. It does not. Look, in the case of Phil and the case of Jody, does not work the way we think it does. Right? And there's a second part to that quote, because it's a quote. The world does not work the way we think it does. Neither do we. Yes, exactly. Exactly. It is so magical. So it makes one realize that there are options that we don't conceive of that are valid and viable alternative options.
Which, you know, just that, just saying there are options. It's just,
yes.
It changes everything.
Yes. So, in Princess Katie Bird's world, what if we just said magic is real?
Right.
So, of course, you know, at first Princess Katie Bird says, no, there's no such thing as magic. And as she goes through her adventures, she just comes to discover there is, right?
Right.
Yeah. I mean, she denies it at first.
Right.
But what is this? Isn't this just what we just talked about now, magic, to realize that the impossible is suddenly possible?
Right. Exactly. And then once she gets that magic wand, you can't stop her.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, I'm going to read you
please.
what I wrote about. All right, this is what I said. There's a bunch of them. The purpose of the session. To emphasize the fact that there are always other options, and to suggest questions I can ask myself that will assist me in seeing those options. So the whole, you know, all the slides were questions that will help you change your perspective. To reiterate the idea that changing my circumstance or improving my character starts with changing my thinking, how I see myself, the world, and myself in the world. I think, you know, I mean, you can't really change anything until you change what you're thinking.
Yes.
And you know, don't you think that there's so much of what goes on in the world, and I mean, you see all the ads and all the things people sell you. They're trying to tell you that you can change yourself, or that you can change, you know, your circumstance or whatever, if you'll just buy this thing. And that's what that's, you know, the basis of almost everything that is trying to be sold. And it, you know, obviously it doesn't work, and you can't just add something. It's like we were talking about, the butterfly has to completely dissolve, and you don't just add wings on, you know, to the caterpillar. I mean, so you have to change your thinking to change anything. So I saw as an important point in this module. Shifting my perspective allows me to see other possibilities that are actually already there, but have been hidden to me by my myopic views, or my tunnel vision. I just get locked in on something, thinking that's the only option. And so those other options are there, but I don't even see them.
Yes.
So when in doubt, zoom out.
Yes. And then once you zoomed out, perspective shift.
Right. Look at the big picture, move around within that larger view, and see things from different perspectives. There's always more than we see at first glance. Don't get stuck in one view of anything.
That's huge. That one view, this is a big deal. We tend to, by default, think perspective shift is to go from one to another. No, it means finding multiple.
Right.
That's the magic. Because when you see things from multiple angles, like if somebody's trying to sell you something and you suddenly see a whole lot of different perspectives on it, you're not offended, you're not bothered, because you see the full range and you get to choose from them.
Right.
So the moment we have multiple perspectives, we automatically enable choice.
Our first thing is to think there's only one. And then then we move to thinking there's only two.
Exactly.
And the trick is to figure out that there's
colors. Yes.
I mean, I've been doing all this photography and really enjoying that. And I mean, obviously, you do that all the time as a photographer. You know, you
Yes,
need to,
yes, exactly,
you know, uh,
exactly. Yeah,
you,
yeah, yeah.
you think
So
something is a good, this is going to be a good picture,
yeah.
and then you step over this way, or you get down on your knee, or you do something, and you realize, oh,
Yes,
yeah, you know,
yes,
better here,
yes,
there.
yes. I,
So,
I, I have a little, I guess I could probably make it into a mini course, part of the perspective shifting thing on photography and
mm,
the abstract magic of photography. Now I use it in-game photography, right?
mm,
Rather than real world photography, because it's just your range of capabilities is more. So taking screenshots inside the games, I have
oh,
thousands of them, just it's a really magical thing, but it's all about perspective shifting and appropriateness and awareness. You got to be aware of the light, positioning, timing. Timing is important. So as a mechanism for the application of your dictionary of power, photography is a very, very powerful application mechanism.
okay, I'll put that in.
Yeah. So next time you're doing photography, you play the Way of Impeccability game,
Ah, what
which is
is it?
called Name That App.
Oh, right, right.
Yeah. So when you're taking a photograph, ooh, I'm perspective shifting. Ooh, I'm practicing timing. Ooh, I'm zooming out. Oh, zooming out. Overview perspective. Oh, I'm practicing deliberate immersion. Is zooming in. See, there's
Mm,
all sorts of stuff that come to mind. I'm paying attention to detail. I'm thinking it through to the end. I'm not just doing the first one. I'm looking and saying, okay, I'm being thorough. I'm being disciplined. I'm being diligent. You know, like when they do the photo shoots of they shoot 1,000, photographs. You pick out the best ones. So you don't just assume, your first option is your only option. So lots of stuff, lots of stuff.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
pretty cool. Well, you know, the dictionary of power and the terminology and everything is that's great to when Erica and I are talking because you know, we're both
Yes,
using those words.
yes,
But it's really
yes.
cool to be able to use
Yes, yes, yes.
it.
So, this is why when first Erica started, before she restarted the program, in the beginning, when you were around and sometimes you came and you joined and, when Joe was being the shoulder, um, and I saw the interest in the connectivity. And then as Erica would come on, she would say, oh, I was talking to Kay or my mom about this. And this is why I was keen to get you more involved, because when there is that connectivity and you have someone to share the language and the thing with, it leverages you tremendously. And look, even though Eric has been talking to you all this time, you coming and it's from your own side and inside, it changes the conversations even more, right? So to do the program together with somebody, it is a profound thing. It is a very profound thing. So that's why I'm making every effort I can to get Joe more involved as well.
I know that would be awesome. And Joe is
Oh,
so great. I mean,
yeah, yeah.
he
I do love Joe. I do love Joe. Yeah, yeah,
he really does. He sees so many things. He just doesn't talk all the time like
yeah, yeah,
I do. You know, he.
yeah,
But it doesn't mean
yeah, yeah.
he's honing in on the
Oh
ideas. And
no, oh no. I love Joe, and I'm very keen to get him involved. I really like Joe a lot. I got to know Joe through his shoulder.
I know that's so cool. I love
Yeah.
that.
Implications. There were so many implications to that. It was just something special. So
Mhm.
yeah, when we start to look at implications, which is again, photography too, you want to look at implications. When I shift to this mood, it implies, okay, I'm zooming in on that little dark corner spot of the forest. It implies something sinister maybe. So it's all about implications, your photograph, right?
Mhm, mhm.
Yeah, yeah.
This is a little bit off the path, but remember how I did the haiku about the dragonfly?
Yeah.
The next day, I went out in my backyard, and what was flying around?
Oh, magical dragonfly. Yes.
And it was a beautiful one. It was in.
Wow.
It was not blue like the one in my story, but I was able to get a pretty cool picture of it.
Oh,
I'm,
brilliant. Brilliant.
I'm having a little bit of trouble with my computer photo part, whatever. So
Mm.
when we get off of here, I'm going to go back and try to fix it. But
Excellent.
you know,
Excellent.
I can't really access them into my
Mm. Mm.
files.
Ah, right, right,
But
right.
it was. I thought it was very cool that
Yeah, yeah.
you know
Uh,
that
you connect your phone to your computer with the USB. Okay, and then you just drag the folder across. Yeah.
Oh no, it automatically goes across.
Oh, okay, it automatically. Okay, okay, but it didn't for whatever reason.
No, it did, but I'm having trouble accessing on my
The
computer.
oh, finding where it stored it.
There's something goofy going on because whenever I click on the photo app, it says closing the library.
Ah, interesting. Okay.
Okay,
Yeah, it's one of them Apple things. So, all right.
isn't it? So I just have to fix it, but
Yeah, yeah. Or
just
just re-download it because unless you deleted it off your phone.
no, I've got
Okay, so it's still there. Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Good. Well, let's do it again. Yeah.
it. So I'll show it to you sometime.
Ah, I love it. I love it. It's very exciting. Very exciting. Yeah.
Okay, so um, the next thing that I wrote was perspective shifting is a skill that I can practice and hone. It will serve me well in all areas of life. It not only serves me, but it makes me better at serving others.
Wow. Wow. Yes. Absolutely.
And I kind of got
Absolutely.
off on this little thing, with that. But I mean, really, if I can change my perspective to see things the
Yes.
way another person sees them, I can do
Yes.
a better job of
Yes.
whatever I need to
Yes.
do with them.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
uh,
Yes. It is a
okay.
huge deal what you just said. It is
Well,
a huge deal.
I love that it is a skill that the more I practice
Yes.
it, the
Yes.
better I get, and the more
Yes.
useful it becomes. And
Yes. It is a profound skill. Never mind just a skill.
right.
It is a profound skill.
I
Yeah.
said it makes me better at decision making, problem solving, and creativity. It makes me better in relationships with others, and
Yes.
it gives me hope in difficult situations. The
Mm.
idea that there's always another option gives hope. I think that's where people get lost sometimes is they feel like there is no other choice. There's no other option.
Yes.
That's
Exactly.
the feeling.
Exactly. Exactly. Exactly.
Uh,
Exactly. And hope is what withers the heart, or
right?
hopelessness. Yes.
Hopelessness.
Without hope, the heart withers. Yeah. Yeah.
Right? Um, Working from new perspectives is pragmatic and it allows for better strategizing.
Mm.
Living intentionally is better served when I have an arsenal of strategies.
Yes.
And
Yes.
having the different
Yes.
strategies requires perspective shifting.
Yes. Yes. Exactly. That is really what strategy is. It is. It is looking to leverage perspective shifting to find a perspective that gives us advantage.
Yeah,
That's it. It's just advantageous perspective shifting. That's all.
that's interesting. Yeah, I mean, it just makes it,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But the value of perspective shifting is not just pragmatic, it is also a fun adventure.
Yes.
Changing perspective connects
Yes.
me to the moreness of the universe.
Yes.
If you can see
Yes.
things from a different
Yes.
perspective, you're seeing more.
Exactly. Exactly. So
And
perspective shifting is wealth.
yeah, good point. I said, in the words of someone I know, it's magical. It makes life more interesting and more worthwhile.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Oh
so
yes, it
it is,
does.
it is it is pragmatic. It's useful. Application, all that, strategy, and all of that stuff. But I think it's really important to just remember that it's also just really fun.
Yes, it's magic. It's
It's
magic. It is absolute magic.
so interesting. I mean, to just see things from a different perspective. My aim is to make perspective shifting one of my new habits.
Good aim or intent?
Well, we could intent.
Ah, it's more powerful. An aim is something that might happen. An intent means you're doing it now. You've
Uh,
put it into practice. An intent is that commitment. It's absolutely, I want to have this, absolutely. And I'm applying energy to doing it right now. So I intend to do it. It's a commitment. It's a commitment. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
one of my new habits, my new way of being, not just something that, you pluck out of it.
Wow.
It's actually how
Yes, yes, inherent into your way of being. Yes, you want to have perspective shifting an inherent part of your way of being, yeah?
yes, I'm going to write that. Inherent part. Got it. Okay. So those were the points that, for me, those were kind of the main points and the purpose of having all those questions that are asked, the purpose of perspective
Yeah,
shifting.
yeah.
What makes perspective shifting
Yeah.
awesome. So, and I didn't get this part written down except on your little piece of paper, but I was thinking about how an example of perspective shifting is what's kind of going on in the world right now.
Yes.
The whole concept of systemic racism
Yes.
and injustice is the world is having to see things from a different perspective.
Exactly. Exactly. The universe is actually forcing us to perspective shift, because isn't racism just locked into an old legacy limited perspective that doesn't serve you, that doesn't serve anybody? Yeah. So that's it. We're being forced to perspective shift. Yes. Yes.
And
Yes.
and I can see, how we were talking about world, your world collapse, that
Yes. Worldview collapse. Yeah.
and I think that's happening to a
Oh yeah.
lot.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah. Now, I mean, I would say in your case, it's more like the one is dissolving and another world is taking its place. Worldview collapse is usually a very not fun and unpleasant psychological experience. It leads to depression, usually self-doubt, lots of stuff. And so it's a good thing to go through to, but it really collapses and implodes, and it's not a fun experience. So with you are transitioning, rather. You're experiencing worldview transition.
I agree. I don't feel like I have a worldview collapse, but
Right.
I see it.
Oh, you mean in general around us? Yes, yes. Oh yeah, oh yeah, oh
And
yeah.
I think people are depressed. People are,
Yeah.
whatever. And,
Yeah.
they've got this one view, and it's all of us that it's being challenged, and, they don't know what to do. And it's, I just see that in a lot of people. And maybe, I don't know. I mean, I haven't been around other places during this time, but certainly here, there are just an awful lot of people that are really struggling with
Yes. Yeah.
desperately to defend their
Correct.
view,
Exactly. Exactly.
and
Exactly.
it's indefensible.
Exactly.
It's fine.
Exactly.
It's so hard to.
Exactly. Exactly. And that's the big part of the worldview collapse.
Mhm.
Is they are looking to defend the indefensible. In other words, they can't deal with the awful truth, and they keep trying to prop it up, and of course, eventually they can't, and the whole thing collapses and implodes on them, and then their world ends.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
devastating,
It's
but
pretty.
it's necessary. Sometimes it's necessary because they refuse to learn the nice way. They just wanted to cling to it. So, and the key to it is to connect it to the thread here, which is they were unable to perspective shift.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, it's so amazing that if you look at it just in the way the world and what's happening with the racism and systemic and the shifting, right? Look at the sparking incident here now. I mean, there's been many, but this most recent one with George Floyd, right?
Yes.
And then the second one, the guy in Atlanta, I forget his name now. I'm sorry.
No. But I know.
So, yeah, the one in Atlanta. Now, both of them force perspective shifting. Not only perspective shifting, but discernment as well. People brought up George Floyd's history that, he'd been in trouble before, armed robbery, whatever. What
Doesn't
does
matter.
that matter? Exactly. Again, it forces perspective shift. The same thing with the second guy who was, sleeping in his car and then he grabbed the taser and all this. Same thing. It doesn't matter. You need to separate out. You need to look at it from multiple angles. If you look only at the one angle that, okay, you know, this and that, then you get caught in that bubble and then you lose the bigger picture. So perspective shifting allows us to see that bigger picture. The universe is pushing this down your throat, people, to say perspective shift, zoom out, be aware, look at the bigger picture, practice discernment, awareness, discernment, and understanding.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's just,
yeah,
it's such an interesting thing. And
yeah.
I, you know, in myself, I was thinking about how, and we were talking about this the other day, that I remember very distinctly at one point thinking, and you know, I mean, I see the result of injustice and the, you know, all the problems that have been caused by racism and a lot of the cultural issues, um, you know, within different communities, and because I see it in the children, you know,
Yes,
and
yes.
um, but it. I thought for a long time, I very specifically said, I think that for things to really change, it's going to have to be um, from the Black community, Black people, or you know, whatever you, I don't know,
Yeah,
you know, term to say, um, are going to have to be the ones, because if white, if someone like me goes in and tries to tell them what to do or how to make a change or you know
yeah,
whatever,
yeah.
it's, it's
It's
not
not
going to be,
possible. Right,
it's going to be
right.
perceived as, you know, I know more than you, or you know, or
It's
whatever.
patronizing. Yeah, yeah.
And you know, there's just going to have to be people from within that community that rise up and help each other. And
Yeah.
I really felt that.
Oh yeah.
I think
Oh
there
yeah.
are, I do think there is some truth to that part of it, but the perspective shift, huge perspective shift that I've had through this recent
Yeah.
thing is realizing that the initial changes have to come from white people, because they have to
Yes.
come from the people who at this point
Or
have
in
the,
power.
and you know, Eric and I were talking about, you know, slavery, and I've said this before too, you know, the end of slavery came because white, basically white men decided
Exactly.
that needed to happen,
Yeah. Exactly.
and
Exactly. We forget such potent things. Just because there is a, you know, idiotic segment still left over, you know, activists, you know, ativars from the past. No, no, that doesn't mean that they are in the majority. We need to have overview perspective. And
right,
when we have overview perspective, we look and see the world does evolve, it is grow, it is a better place than it was.
right.
Yes, there is people who cling to the past, who fear change, and who get stuck, and you know, but that's just, they just legacy people.
Right. My neighbor, my next door neighbor, who is so funny, and she's just a really, oh, she's a mess, but she's really outspoken. Let's put it that way. And one of my other neighbors has put a sign in her front yard that is a political sign for a candidate who, part of her sign says "Protect Trump."
Oh, interesting.
So my next door neighbor is just beside herself that, you know, this is up in the neighborhood. And so she is planning to put up this sign, and she's going to make her own sign. And so she called me and she's trying to figure out what to say on her sign, you know. And so I was telling her, you know, it has to be really simple, to the point, you know, big, you know, whatever. And so we were talking, and she said, um, I think I'll just put "Old white men are afraid."
Yes,
And
yes,
I
yes.
mean, we're laughing, but I have thought of that
Yeah, yeah,
so
yeah,
much. And
yeah, yeah,
you look at the whole picture, and just through history, it's not just white, but I mean, and
yeah, yeah.
it's generally,
They're afraid of change.
yes, and afraid of losing. I think there's this sense of, there's a pie, a limited pie, and if you take a bigger piece, that makes my piece smaller.
Yes.
And so there's a fear of
Yeah.
losing.
Yeah. They
Losing.
don't know about mourners. Yeah.
No. So that's kind of the heart of the
Yeah.
whole thing.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you know, I told you I was reading through the Bible. I've only gotten halfway in a year, but I'm in it. And I was reading the part about Moses and the Exodus. What a great story. But
Wow. Well, then you're not halfway. Then you're only in the beginning.
well, that was the
Oh, okay. I was gonna say, I got news for you.
no, no, no.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
But when I was reading that,
Yeah. Mm.
it is such a great story that you kind of come back to it, and
Right.
everything after that refers back to it also.
Yeah. It's a Genesis story. Yeah.
It's a great story, but the Pharaoh. I mean, it was the exact same
Yeah. Yeah.
law,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
when the children of Israel came to Egypt with Joseph and all of that, and they started prospering, they were doing well, and there got to be more and more of them. And I mean, it even says right in the text that Pharaoh looked around and said, "Wow, there's a lot of them now." And
Yeah. Yeah.
if they wanted to, they could overthrow us, and so they put them into slavery. And
Yeah.
that is the exact same
Yeah.
as what we're seeing right now.
Yes. 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 It's
Racism.
fascinating. It's fascinating. And look at it. Oh, sorry. You cut out. We didn't hear you. Say again.
No, it's just the whole concept of the systemic racism is
Yeah.
just something really new to me, and a perspective shift that
Yeah.
that has just been so interesting. And
Yeah.
you realize how privileged you are that you don't even know about it.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah. It's entrenched comfort, which
Exactly.
leads to entrenched complacency,
Right.
which leads to insecurity.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you're entrenched in your comfort, you stop learning and growing. And
Right.
look how it is with people that with technology. They're
Mm-hmm.
entrenched, they do, and older people, they're in their comfort bubble. Now they're gonna learn something new. Oh my God, the world is ending. I gotta learn something new. Right? So this is why they fear change, because they don't want to learn something new.
Right.
And also because they've entrenched in their superiority, they cannot learn something new, because by implication they have to acknowledge that they don't know something, which now pulls them down off their superiority high horses. At least so they fear. So it's a mess. It's a mess. It's a mess. Yeah. When you understand the superiority paradigm, the whole thing just becomes very clear very quickly. So you're going to be hearing about it soon as Erica Jane starts. So unless she's already started, I'm assuming she already started. You've been chatting about it a little bit.
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah,
So,
good. I'm looking forward to getting started with Erica Jane on the new thing. So
that's going to be
later today. It's exciting. I'm excited.
great.
Yes.
Well, the idea of entrenched is really interesting, and
Yes.
I told you I was going to this church, this new church, and I
A non-denominational church, right? Okay. Okay.
but it is very different than anything I've ever
Yes. It's a philosophical church by the sounds of things.
Yeah, it is. It's so
Yeah.
interesting. But one of the, I listen to these podcasts that are, the past messages that they've given that, I wasn't there, so I didn't hear. And one of them that I was listening to again is one of the ones that made me think, okay, I might be able to go to this church because so interesting. He really gets after the concept of being religious, and he gets after Christians who get into that mindset.
Yeah, bubble immersion. Yeah.
He doesn't put up with that, and so this one that I was just listening to was it starts off with a story from World War I, where and I don't think I'd ever heard of this, but it was called the Christmas Truce. I don't remember the year, whatever it was, 19, I don't know, whatever a year.
Oh, I know which story you're talking about. Yeah, it was during the First World War. Yeah.
Yes, First World War.
Yeah, I think it was actually the either 1914 or 1915. It was early in the war. It didn't last throughout the entire war, as far as I know about it. Yeah,
It was super interesting, and he was talking about trench warfare and
correct.
how in World War I it was trench warfare,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
that people would get their line and they'd dig a trench and just sit from there and throw ammunition and
right, right.
yeah. Which sounds a lot like the political
Exactly. Entrenched warfare. Exactly.
and
Exactly.
um, basically that's what he was talking about, and
Yeah, yeah,
not necessarily political, but it
yeah.
was. But he just said that when we dig ourselves into a big hole and then all we do is sit and try to defend
Exactly.
our
Exactly.
ideas,
Yeah.
that that's not, I mean, for him, he said that's not what Christianity is supposed to be about, and
No, no.
that, that's not, it's not okay. And so I
Right.
was like, I like this guy.
Yes,
Um,
yes, yes.
but
If there's
anyway,
no growth, you die.
exactly. Well, and I don't know. It's just not smart. It's just not smart.
Right, right.
But,
Right.
but
I
anyway,
mean, look at your plants. If they aren't growing, they're dying, right?
right? Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, I got started thinking, because this is the way I think, I guess. But I was thinking about childlikeness and keeping your childlikeness and all that. But I was also thinking about this whole concept of perspective shifting, always knowing that there are other choices, and looking at the choices and all that. And I thought, wouldn't it be amazing if that could be part of the school curriculum?
Yes. Yes.
Each child,
Yes.
first of all, that there are
Yes.
always other choices, and then teach them how to find those, and teach them how to look for all the different ones. And just, if perspective shifting was just part of the curriculum, what
Yes.
humongous difference that would make.
Yes. Yes.
And
Yes.
wouldn't that be
Yeah.
isn't that good? How could we take some of the concepts of the way of impeccability and put them into
Yes. Yes.
something for kids?
Yes. 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 Yes.
The,
Yeah. I spoke to this about Erica last time we were on.
oh, you did? I
Oh
didn't hear
yeah.
about.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, very specifically as part of, as we go forward, I mean, I have a perspective shifting workshop which actually uses the 10 commandments for perspective shifting.
Oh, how
So,
interesting.
it's very fascinating. Yes, we'll do it at some time, at some
Okay.
point. When we get to that point, we'll just include you when we get to that. It's part of the Monas project for Erica, so we'll do it with you. We'll just include you in it. All right. So, uh, the perspective shifting, it is a huge deal. But then I was saying the part about the children, I was saying to Erica Jane that, part of the Monas project at some point we are going to put together a course, maybe a shorter one, but we'll do it together specifically. Take like the capital D diplomacy. I've got all the content there, but to transform it into a course, it's a huge shift. There's a whole difference between reading an article or a book and then as a course. It's a completely different thing as a program, particularly in the way we do it. The tasks and exercises are in a whole different ball game. Especially in the Monas project. The tasks in wave impeccability don't go to quite that extreme. So, but then I said, as part of this, I said, we could do, a part of Erica's deal was also in terms of just, she was talking about her responsibilities and that. I said, part of it is also leveraging us from our side to assist her in finding something to from a work point of view, or creative, or, own business, or whatever, something that generates some sort of income.
Right.
I say we can combine the two, and she could do facilitating of the project and stuff like. Anyway, a long conversation, but then it led to you as well. And I said, well, for instance, you could do something like after school care rather than daycare, which is usually small children, right? Babies and that. To do an after school thing for still working mothers, but they have the kids 8, 9, 10, whatever that age, where they're not able to look after themselves. So I guess pre-teens pretty much. And then to combine, just basically taking care of them as a business, but you also have this program that you do, which is what we're talking about now.
Right.
And this is what I mentioned to Erica. So it's interesting that you come up with it also independently. I love that. I said, that's a program we can all put together and create. And, it's essentially, way of impeccability for kids, and be fantastic, and you obviously use things like storytelling, because, like Edgy is that, and you follow it out and you do more like that. And you use these things as a profound mechanism, but always there's this intent to instill perspective shifting and to understanding, awareness, thinking things through, and character creating qualities, like diligence and thoroughness and patience and integrity. And integrity is a big issue, of course, honesty, all of the stuff. So it's just character training. That is what the course is all about, which is another way of looking at way of impeccability, is character training.
Right.
Yeah.
And the first half of my career, character education was just a normal part of school. That was it was a big part. We did stuff all the time, all day long, and it was just it was
a given. It was a given. Right.
And then there was this shift, and it was all about data and collecting data and all this stuff and skills. And I was thinking about that this morning. If you're I mean, you have to figure out what you want the end to be to figure out how to get there. So
exactly, reverse engineering. It's a very big point.
So if what you want when your student graduates or whatever, what you're hoping to get is a fulfilled and enlightened human who is going to be they're going to be a good employee, they're going to be a good mate, they're going to be a good parent, they're going to be a good neighbor, whatever.
Exactly.
That is what you're aiming for. Then the means to get there has to include character.
It's essential. It's the core to everything. It's absolutely the core to everything.
Is a worker, if you're looking for a drone.
Correct. Correct. Do you want your kid to be free, or do you want your kid to be happy?
Yeah.
Or do you want your kid to be productive and a model citizen in the way you think it, or limited or obedient? Now, come on, you got to choose what you want from your kid.
So I feel like education right now is, the goal is to end up with workers who, can do these skills and stuff. And it's not really about being a human. And, that just.
Exactly. And here's the problem in education too. They're so hell-bent on information, they've missed the boat. Right?
Exactly.
Trying to create, and you can't, especially in today's world, and it's absurd. You've got Google. What do I need information for?
Why do you need that?
Exactly. Teach them how to use Google.
Really? Done.
Yeah. Exactly. But if you don't have patience and discipline and thoroughness and scrupulousness and perspective shifting, you're going to get lost in Google very quickly.
Right. Well,
so these skills apply to anything. Exactly.
And if you can't work with the person next to you, or you can't
exactly, you got no exactly. So if you have no overview perspective, you have no integrity, all of the stuff, you get lost very quickly. If you're greedy, you're going to be seduced by all those ads and the phishing stuff and the false promises and all this. If you have no discernment, you're going to get lost in the first person who just says what you want to hear. Oh, cool. So all of these skills are absolutely essential for Googling.
That's good.
Yeah. But again, thinking of it in the context of employment for you and income generation rather than employment. This is something we can do together. And I was explaining the whole system of the bigger thing with a new university and all of this. how it's the intent of the bigness of, if you zoom out from Way of Impeccability, Way of Impeccability is one of the programs in a new university.
Right.
Yeah, yeah. So, you know, it's a forum where we have multiple programs, and those aren't all necessarily just run by us. You know, we can have those which somebody else can run on our behalf. And, you know, like if you refer somebody to the program, there's a commission that goes to you, you know, but in the reverse, yeah.
I'm sorry to interrupt
No,
you,
no, guys, okay.
but I was thinking about that, and I'm in this group on Facebook that is called Renegade Retirement.
Wow, perfect. Yes.
You know, it's women that have retired and they're,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
like wanting to do different things and,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
hard
Yeah.
and stuff. And it's kind of an interesting group, but I thought that would be a place where I could introduce the concept.
Yes.
And
Yes. Yes.
so actually
Yes.
yesterday, I didn't say, you know, they have one day of the week, they have a thing where if you have some kind of business or something, you can post something about it.
Ah, wow, wow, wow.
Only that day. But I didn't do it that way.
No, good.
All I did was somebody, you know, said something and made a post, and all they said was, you know, well, checking in, how's everybody doing today? And so I responded and I said, today is my mom's birthday, which that was yesterday.
Yes, we enjoyed the photos of your mom. We were looking at them.
And I said, you know, it was my mom's birthday. I went through a bunch of old photos and, you know, was really thinking about my brother, my mom, my grandmother, you know, that all lived in this house and now they're all gone, you know. And I said, and I did not feel sad.
Yes.
And that's like a really big thing for me.
Yes.
And yeah,
Yes.
I've really been struggling, you know, with this just thing that's just been, you know, kind of hanging around me and just, you know, making me feel weird. And I said, I feel like I've made so much progress, and I said, you know, I've been doing like a Bible study, and I've been doing this great program called Way of Impeccability.
Excellent. That's the way to introduce it. Share your journey.
Yeah, threw it out there, and I figured that, you know, I could kind of introduce it that way.
Yeah, yeah,
and,
yeah, yeah. You know what you could do as a task, and actually. It is sort of in the introduction a little bit when I talk about the SASSY group, and I don't put too much weight on it because it's just of a time issue. But as a profound magical task, if you were to say at the end of our Zoom sessions, not at the end of the sessions that the online sessions, at the end of the Zoom session, the next time you're on the group, you say you make a post about what I learned today. Yes, my journey.
Yeah.
What was new to me? What I discovered today? What was profound for me today? And this is what you make a post about. What realization I came to, what awareness, what understanding, what shifted me? How did I actually profoundly change today? Now, you came on and we've been talking about perspective shifting. Make a post about how profound perspective shifting is. And all you do is you say, this is part of the program I'm doing, you know, and you just kind of weave it in there. You're not pushing Way of Impeccability. You're just sharing your journey. This is what I learned in my Way of Impeccability session today. That's it. You're sharing a journey of what you really changed and moved. This is a magical post, and it is not just, okay, yes, there's multiple values to this, but for you personally, this is a magical thing. When you redo it and you share that, you can even share some of your notes. You got posts right there. Just post it, you know, just tweak it for the post. But if you put it in that context of, you know, I want to share what really moved me today, what really got me, what really connected to me, what was really profound for me, what changed my life today. You share that. This is a magical share. I would love people to share this in the SASSY group, you know, but like Erica and, you know, all the things that she's come out. I mean, she's got zillions of posts to share. Same with Sue, and Sher does. You know, Sher's the only one who does this, but Sher's into the. But it's a profound thing. And if you ask Sher, the value she gets out of making those posts, it's immeasurable. You know, it's a huge deal. So, yeah. Yeah. So I really would highly recommend this. And then again, you know, there's an extra benefit from it. But I also wanted to say, so my where I was going with that was, in the same way as if you recommend somebody, there's a commission in it for you. In the flip side, if we put a course, and if you like in the courses that we have, let's just say, you know, we make this course, whether you're involved with it or not doesn't matter, but either way, let's just say we make this course, Wave Impeccable for Children. If you bring somebody into it, and as we go through, you know, if you get to a point where you wish to be a facilitator of the course, and obviously if we go into it enough where we feel, okay, yeah, you can do that too, now you can facilitate that course.
Right.
Right? Like say Erica Jane could easily facilitate the self-trust course. Right?
Right.
Now, if she brings somebody in, or somebody else brings somebody in, and Erica Jane does the facilitation, then we get the commission and she gets the bulk of it. It just flips. It just reverses, you know, because it's through the platforms and all this. So everybody wins. It's a magical system. It's a magical thing. So I'm just saying, you know, in the same way with doing the wave impeccability for kids, it can be part of a new university. And, you know, you can work towards, you know, we can make sure that you can facilitate it, which I don't think will be a big problem, you know, at all. But, you know, there is a facilitation course, or at least, you know, the one that's coming in the Monas project. You'll hear about it via Erica. Sorry, wow, the helping and hearing course. It's just an odd little cough. It's like it didn't want me to say anything. So that's a very big deal, and so there's a lot of magic going on. In other words, you know, and there's moreness involved in this. You know, there's always moreness on top of moreness. So just it's something to think about. You know, and this to me, it's a magical deal. And then when we get later with Erica, we get into the Biala series. You know, when I wrote that, I thought of it as something for like teens, really. You know, even pre-teens. But then people said to me, "Oh no, gosh, no, I don't know. I thought it was a very simple story." And then people said, "Oh no, you're crazy. This is, you know." But anyway, so we'll see. We'll see. You know, I said it's way too complicated or sophisticated. I don't think so. But anyway, so that to me, my thinking is always connected to that school age, you know, because that's where everything happens. If you catch people there, this is where it transforms. Now, some of us never leave that, which is magical. You know, for me, I'm just a perpetual young man, and I see that into you as well. You know, I mean, a princess by default is in that magic age, right?
Right.
They're not old princesses.
No old princesses.
Doesn't exist. Doesn't exist. So, yeah. Actually, that was interesting when the nobility concept, in part of that, when I was saying repurposing tension, I was thinking about something with the prince, you know, and I was thinking, if he now were noble, how would he feel? And then I started to explore the whole concept of the real nobility, not hereditary nobility, you know, the pure concept of just being noble, you know, nobleness, you know, without the hereditary nobility. But it started, you know, in just imagining what it would feel like to feel noble.
Right.
Interesting exercise. Yeah.
That is cool.
A little different. But yeah, so there's a lot that you know, in terms of potential and opportunity and things that can be done. And truly, I think this idea of doing wave impeccability for children, you'd be surprised how little we'd have to change, really.
That's what I was going to say. I always say that one of the reasons I like kindergarten is because to me, it's like poetry. It's like the poetry.
Yes, exactly.
When you write poetry, it's not that it's smaller than a story.
Yes.
But it still has to have all of the
yes.
It has to have the meaning just in a simpler form. And to me, it's like getting, you take something and you just get it down to the essence.
Yeah.
Its essence. And
exactly.
That's what poetry is.
Yes.
I don't and I was thinking, you know, how, you know, young children, really young children, think in a completely different way than anybody
Yeah,
else.
yeah.
But how awesome would it be if you, and you know, like thinking about working with parents,
Yes,
not only
yes,
not only teach
yes.
them how to do it, but teach them how to teach their own children how to.
Exactly, exactly. Go to dog training school. Who do they train?
I agree. I agree. I have a book that has a title like that. How you know, training my dog helped me, you know,
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah, yeah. You have to train yourself. I mean, all those dog trainers will tell you, we're not training the dog, we're training the owner. Yeah,
Yeah.
every time we train the owner.
So, and how cool would that be, though?
Oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah,
Whatever. Speaking of
oh
kids,
yeah, oh yeah,
um,
oh yeah. When the kids start doing this,
yeah,
the parents are going to have to do it themselves. Otherwise, the kids are going to be too ahead of them. So
but what if you could train parents and
yeah,
they raise their children from tiny
yes.
with that?
Oh, it's a transformation. You transform the world. Oh, absolutely. I was talking to Erica Jane about that. You know, one of the tasks I assigned her is a bonus task. I said, look at the leverage points for changing the world. Now, of course, schooling is one. Corporate, the Fortune 500 is another one, or CEOs would be another one. Minimal energy for maximum return. So yes, that would certainly be it. Absolutely. So that's why I thought to get to that. You start with a corporation, especially Fortune 500. If you can get just one of those corporations to introduce this as a wellness policy, as a corporate policy, now those people take it home, and then if it's one of the really big, like Google and Facebook, where they have daycare and child and after school care, and I think some of they probably even have schools by now, schools, company schools. The mines always used to have that. So the same thing, it all starts to filter through, and now because it works for that company, all the other companies have to do it, and it just cascades. So it all works together for literally changing the world very quickly. Things catch on in a Fortune 500 company. It just takes one company to have success with it. All the other companies suddenly, and they start teaching it in the universities and so on. So it's a very, very quick way to do this. And this includes schooling and education, because it's all integrated now, especially in the modern schools, especially now with COVID, even more so, people working from home.
Right.
I have a friend, and I helped her get a job with the parent company of WordPress. And they one of these also, kind of more together companies. And she works from home, but they actually sent her a comfortable desk and a nice comfortable chair.
Wow.
Yeah, because they understand you got to be comfortable working at home.
Yeah.
Yeah. So she had a hell of a job assembling the desk, but that was a
No.
different story. But she eventually did get it assembled, and she uses it. So they're just realizing that the stuff. Now, again, too, if you've got children, you need to make sure your children are okay, because otherwise they're distractions. So it's all about productivity. And this is all, I mean, this stuff makes you so much more productive, because it frees your energy.
Exactly.
And you're more creative because you can perspective shift. You can see overview perspective. Your integrity's there. You're more impeccable. It's blah blah. You're just way better employee. So
And you end up with um, happier humans.
exactly. And if people feel that they are part of an organization that is promoting things that they deeply see as being sensible, you've got committed people, you've got passionate people that are working. I'm doing good by going to work. I don't care that I'm making tires or bolts. We are adding to moreness in the world through promoting impeccability and sensibility. This is part of our brand. Everything we do, we adding to the world. You people feel like they're on a mission. Doesn't matter what they're doing. They're going to work within their minds. I'm not going to work to make bolts or whatever. I'm going to work to be impeccable. Big
Right.
difference. It's a big
Right.
difference. It's big difference. It's very simple, but it's massively transformative. You give purpose to people and
Right.
meaning and significance. It doesn't matter what I do. If it's purposeful, I don't mind doing it. Right?
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So very simple, but absolutely huge. So I am looking forward to, as we go through this, just yes, it's a bit longer time. It's a bit down the road, but it's something to just keep in mind and be aware of, that this is an option. and it is a profound option, one which I feel will gel and fall into place and come to be at some point in time. You know, the moreness of things is how this translates and incorporates, you know, into some way that we do something more, you know, some sort of a collaborative project, or it's integrated into what you do. You know, it's a big deal. I was saying to Sue, I set this up ahead of time, a new university concept, because when we first put together Wave Impeccability, it was geared towards CEOs and coaches, therapists, teachers, anybody in an influencing capability. This is who we, you know, looked towards reaching and connecting to. So this is a big shift and a big change in terms of the perception. And part of that was we understood, at least, you know, I did this, you know, and I thought it through. I said, look, I have to set this up in a way which takes care of the ethical eventuality that will arise if you are dealing with somebody like Sue, who's been doing holistic therapy for, you know, 20 years.
Mm,
How does she use and apply and use and be in our own practice without feeling like a plagiarist?
right.
So if I don't set up some way that I have programs that she can go and use as part of the system, she's going to be forced to use what she knows on her own practice, and she's going to feel a bit awkward and artificial and, you know, plagiarizing. So that's why we set up the bigger thing where we can add multiple courses and have it where, you know, people that do the program like Sue end up facilitating this and bringing it into their practice. Because how do you go and really, like, you know, in the case of Sue, she said, well, you know, what I've been doing, it's like, you know, compared to this.
Right.
So she's kind of in a bit of a quandary, right? So we always set it up, at least I did. I set it up right from the start for this, you know.
Well, that's cool.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So yeah, it's very cool. It's very cool. So we understand that, you know, that once you have something that you see that's valuable, you have to be a part of it. You can't really go and duplicate it. Yeah.
Right, right,
Or not
exactly.
easily. So we're making space for that, to have that be a part of what we do as we go on. So yeah. So course building, we'll you know, get the participants in the Monas project. You know, there'll be interns, as it were, when it comes to course building. So yeah, we'll utilize them. So we'll get multiple value. You know, I love multi-layered value. You know, so I have yeah. I'll
Well, cool.
exploit them. Exploit them to their own benefit.
I bet they'll think it's okay. Yeah,
Oh yeah,
I think it'll
oh
be
yeah.
okay.
It's a very magical thing to do the course creation together. It's a very big deal. It's a huge mono shift of your mindset, and it's an application implementation on top of that too. You have to. It's a proof. It's a self-proving exercise. It's a very big deal. Yeah.
Sort of like repeat backs and takeaways just on a big scale.
On steroids, yes, exactly. Yeah. And also it's perspective shifting in a very profound scale, because you have to get inside the head of the participant, as it were, and not to leverage what they know as information, but to design and create tasks which end up with them self-proving to themselves what it is they need to know.
Right, right.
Yeah, so it's a very deeply connected to intent. You have to really tune into the intent. What is it, the intent here? What is it that we are looking for them to absolutely prove to themselves that they know? Not just say they know and, you know, regurgitate the memory from the task. No, they have to go out and do something which proves to themselves that they can do it. So then they, okay, I got this now. And they can move on.
Right. You
Very
know,
big deal.
I don't think I told you about, but at one point when I lived in Utah, I worked for a magazine.
Mm?
Well, it was a publishing company, but
Yeah.
magazine. And so I got one of the magazines was an outdoor sports and recreation magazine, and Utah.
Yeah.
You know, and,
There's plenty of them. Yeah.
um, I got to go. I had wanted to do this for a long time, and so I got to do it. They paid for it, and I got to go on an outward bound trip.
Exciting.
And it was I was 30 years old, and it was for women 30 and older, and it was an all women's trip. The leaders were women, and everybody.
Wow.
And it was 10 days of backpacking in the desert. And it was down in southern Utah. And I think we went into Arizona a little bit too. And
Wow.
backcountry, you know, and I carried a 60-pound pack, which
Wow. Wow. That's not something small. I know I used to walk around with an 80-pound pack on my back once upon a time.
but you know, I'm not
You
a
know.
big, you know,
No, that's huge. That's huge. Wow.
I'm 5'2", so you know that's big.
Yeah.
And we rappelled off of cliffs, and you know, did all this,
Wow.
and you know, it was really fun. But the thing that was, you know, it reminds me of, well, a lot of things actually remind me of Way of Impeccability, but it reminds me of what you were just talking about, designing the course so that the students prove things to themselves.
Yes.
That
Yes.
absolutely happened in that.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
start to realize after a while that, you know, you're like hanging on this side of a cliff or something, and you're thinking to yourself,
Yes.
you know, how did I get here? And you realize they put me here. They knew that I would
Yes.
go there.
Yes.
They knew
Yes.
that I would be in this predicament, and they
Yeah.
knew that
Yeah.
they planned that and designed it so
And
that
trust.
I could learn, you know, this
Yeah.
particular thing. And
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
it was
Yeah.
interesting to look back and see the way they had
Yes. Self-proof. Self-proof. It's
designed
very
that.
important. And when we can approve abstract conceptions to ourselves that enable us to use that abstract conception in any circumstance, pretty much, this is an incredible power. You've just become empowered. It is such a profound thing. It's so simple, but it's massively profound. So yeah. So I'm so looking forward to. I can't say how excited I am with Erica Jane doing this, because the Mourners Project, Way of Impeccability, gives you the tools. And yes, there is the self-proof, there is a session in it, but there's not space enough to go into what we are doing in the Mourners Project, this level of proof and detail, and you know, really fleshing it out. You're going to see when Erica Jane does this. You're going to see it's a different thing, because Erica Jane has it now. But that embeddingness into her being, in terms of her owning her power, it's not quite there yet. And I
Right.
fully envision that Erica Jane at the end of this will be one of those power force people that, okay, you know, you kind of like, oh, yeah,
Oh,
yeah, yeah,
well, I
yeah.
think that will be fantastic
Oh, yeah.
because
Oh, yeah. I mean, you see the, sorry, say again.
she's always had that, you know.
Correct, 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 correct. It's not that she lacks the confidence. She lacks the self-proof. There's a difference. Her
Mm-hmm.
integrity won't allow her to claim things unless it's proven to her.
Right, right.
Her integrity won't allow it. Say, well, but what if you just believe this and you just think so and you're overestimating? Her inner bureaucrats won't sign off until there's self-proof.
Right.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, and then, you know, also with the PSP course, that, you know, the psychology of the superiority paradigm, this is about a deep understanding. And that deep understanding is, it's a vulnerability if we don't have it. So we need to have it. I was explaining to Erica Jane, you have to understand a paradigm fully before you can shift out of it.
Mm-hmm.
Because a paradigm is a default. It is a thing that we believe, it's the system, as it were. You can't let go of a system that's serving you and working until you've proven to yourself and you know thoroughly that this system cannot work. Not isn't working, not it's not giving you good value. No, but cannot work. Take it to its maximum and it cannot possibly work. That's the only way your system, your own personal system, can let go of that paradigm. Says this is an impossibility, but you have to know it, absolutely know it so thoroughly that you know it completely inside and out. It's the only way, because otherwise we can easily be caught in little eddies of it and say, but this is working. Yeah, this part of it works, but the whole system doesn't work. So yeah, yeah. I mean, you can have a bunch of working machines in a factory that doesn't produce anything.
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's the logic there.
Well, it
So,
sounds awesome. I can't wait to see what happens.
I'm very excited. I'm very excited. So yeah, Erica Jane's coming up in 4 minutes time. So,
Oh,
and I can say 4 minutes exactly, because
wow.
Erica Jane's so punctual always. So I can tell I can take it. When Erica Jane comes on, I know it's on the hour.
She probably sits there and waits, you know.
Well, I love it. That's the way I do things too. You know, I always, before I have an appointment, I make sure I'm not there at the time. I make sure I have space before the time.
Right.
A bit of dead space where I'm not doing anything in between that. There's another logic, by the way, just a little bit of strategy just comes up here, as it were. If ever you're in a meeting, make sure you first. Always.
First person there.
First person there, yes, because the first person there gets to claim the space.
Oh, good point. Good
And
point.
everybody who comes into that space afterwards, they adapt to you. Now, you need to maintain this. But like for instance, if you're in a space and you want to have a meeting and you come in and you leave it to, and the people that come in are all happy and cheerful and they're fooling around, like kids are. But if
Right.
you keep it and you say, hey, you know what, are you ready for your meeting? Have you done your oh, suddenly they're all serious. You keep that sober tone you want into the meeting. That's gonna, and everybody who comes in, you adapt to the current tone. It's kind of hard to shift the tone that's already there, right? So the more now start associating with your tone, by the time the meeting starts, you've got it exactly where you want it to be. Whether you're leading the meeting or not, doesn't matter. You can control the meeting even as just a participant, simply by being first. Yeah. Now, of course, when you come in, you're going to have to be a bit active in engaging people with the mood and the tone and the mindset that you want. But nonetheless, it can be done, So, yeah, very just strategic. Yeah, 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 yeah. So, same for the classroom teachers. I never understood how teachers came in after the class was there.
Oh, I never did. Yeah.
Yeah, you got to be there first. They must come into your classroom with you present. This is essential. This is essential. But we always waited on the teacher. I would read during that time.
Really?
Oh yeah. I mean, and then they would. It's amazing to me. I read during my school years from about age 11, 12, all the way past. I read at least a book a day.
Waiting for your teacher?
Not just waiting while I waited in the line at the supermarket or the bank, or standing in line to go in. I always had a book on me, and so any dead space time I would read. And you'd be amazing how many little, even if you're reading 30 seconds at a time, didn't matter. You'd be astonished at how much time you can fill with that. So yeah, it's fantastic. But yeah, a lot of it was just waiting for the teachers. It's like, what on earth are they? I think they maybe had too few teachers, so they had to go different classrooms and they had to shuffle space, So.
And I think it's a little bit different with like high school or something, where you're only in for an hour or something. But
yeah.
more people.
There it is.
It
Oh, I think it's gonna rain
is a minute.
out here in. It's a minute. That's eagerness. That's eagerness. We get a minute early. Oh, I love this. I love this.